And a guy that we did see who was completely exposed to us, Sabonis. Dave's favorite player, I think, in this draft. Sabonis is projected to go number 9 to the Toronto Raptors. And our question is really best power forward outside the top 10, because there's a lot of power forwards in this draft. You got Davis, you got Thon Maker, you have Scale. We're going to include Sabonis into this because he's kind of fringe. Yeah, you got Henry Ellison, who's
generic white bread boy.
Yep. There's a lot of guys here. So who would you say is the best power forward outside the top 10? So that's excluding Chris and that's excluding Bender. So you got guys like Sabonis, Davis, Labissiere, Ellison. You got a lot of guys. Who would you say is the best power forward?
I'm going to give 2.
I said one, but okay.
I'm going to give 2. Well, I can't, like,
he's always
you
hedging
say
his bets.
one, but
he's
it's like,
bets, man.
I look at 2 and I really like 2, and then I'm going to give one that's kind of like he's a
So
raw
he's actually just going to
project.
name every single power forward.
No.
Gave.
This last one's a raw project who could become something really good. I love Sabonis. I mean, it really opened my eye. Dave loved him more before me, but it really opened my eyes seeing him actually play live and just pull down those rebounds and bring Gonzaga into that game that they should have won.
The line all night.
Cavaliers shouldn't have been there. I don't know what it is between me and Cavalier teams. They just should lose, but I like Sabonis. I also like Scale coming out of, like, if we're looking outside the top 10, he's a guy that could be a steal for an NBA team, but he's going to need a few years. And the guy who could absolutely be a steal in the later rounds is I really like Chuck Diallo. I love Diallo.
Going way out.
I love Diallo. He's the one that's like the raw project that's going to need a lot of work. But that late in the draft, if it's a team like, I don't know, the Warriors or even the Spurs, where it's like they can say, fuck it, we'll take him and work with him. He could be a guy that in a few years you're saying, I remember that guy at Kansas.
I got to call Ricky out because I can remember a couple Chad Ford mock drafts reactions where you're calling out Scale saying he's shit. I remember it completely. And now you're changing the boat, man. What the hell?
You know, you look at some.
Are you a LeBron fan next?
No. That'll never happen.
Right.
Kobe all day, every day. But no, I mean, after looking at some more film and as the draft process goes on, I mean, opinions do change, right? That's why they're called opinions. And I'm not saying he's the best power forward in the draft, but I'm starting to come, like, I would pick Sabonis. If you're saying Ricky pick one, I'm picking Sabonis, but Scale could be a guy where he's going to need work in the NBA. That's why I would put Sabonis, because I would be more confident in Sabonis helping out my team day one than Scale.
Look, I think the big thing is 2 questions. One is, are we talking best power forward out of those top, outside of the top 2, or are we talking best power forward for this Raptors team? Because this is a Raptors team.
Do both.
Well, this Raptors team is, right there. They're championship contenders. And Sabonis comes in and gives them the best chance to continue competing. He fits in, the pro offense perfectly fine. Defensively, he has very little weakness. His biggest question is, okay, a little bit of mobility down low. He's not super athletic, but at the same time, he is uncanny. He's got some athleticism to him. You just don't see it as much.
But by Biyombo, hello Sabonis.
Well, Biyombo wasn't even starting.
Dang.
The guy who was starting was Luis Scola.
Oh, yeah.
Valanciunas was the center.
Injured. Yep.
So Luis Scola, I mean, a guy who didn't really have that much mobility in his
Gotta
career.
hate Scola.
And you got a guy who Sabonis is very, tenacious and down on the boards. I mean, I like Sabonis the pick for the Raptors, and I think that's
a fantastic fit because they're in a win now mode. I agree with you. Scale could be a prospect down the line alongside Deontay Davis. He is someone who will grow, and I think in a year or 2, maybe 3 at the tops, that's where you start to draw the line in the sand. Be like, all right, it's just not happening for you.
For Scale, though, it's going to be what team he goes to. Like that.
If they can have that benefit
can almost
to
go
wait
to anybody and kind of be like, okay, we can work with him.
Exactly. Sabonis is a cookie cutter fit for what you need for a down and dirty, gritty power forward who's going to go get you boards. He's going to get you tough points in the paint.
I'll take him at 14 if he's there.
Absolutely. I have no argument with that. Yeah. But I think Scale's upside is just really high. Henry Ellison doesn't do much for me. I've made my point clear on that before.
Well, that's like I really like the Scale to Orlando because I think that Scale could come in and Vogel could work with him to be the big man that he needs in his system.
And he could be a decent defensive player with Vogel. And plus, you got Vucevic down there who can man inside the paint, and Scale can stretch the floor. I mean, looking from a prospect-wise, I think a person who's obviously the most NBA ready is obviously Sabonis. I don't think anyone's arguing there. But prospect-wise, I'm going to go with Henry Ellison. I look at the kid, And I love his stroke. That sounds weird, but I love his shooting. I love his shooting. I think he can be a decent stretch four. He's not the most athletic. He's not the most flashy, but I think he can still put up points. I think he could be a very useful player on any NBA team. But with scale, there's a lot of question marks. He didn't produce in college. You look at Thon Maker. We haven't seen him up against real guys.
Yeah, we watch him beat up on like 15-year-olds.
Deontay Davis he's really athletic, but what else is there? With Henry Ellison, you're going to be able to get a shooter. It's kind of like with the Brandon Ingram thing is he can still score. He doesn't need to rely on athleticism. Right. He can score. I mean, I was watching him go up against Jimmy Butler, and yeah, Jimmy wasn't playing tight defense, but I think Ellison was like a couple feet behind three, and he was still swishing him. I mean, it was like 5 in a row. I think Ellison can be a good scorer in the NBA. I don't think he's going to have the best career out of all these power forwards, but I think he is a great prospect that we didn't mention, that he can really be useful to a team and could still be a consistent starter, 12 years down the line. I think he could be a very consistent player for a team.
He's a mid-tier role player, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think maybe even higher. I think he could be. I think he could be like a K Love on a team. Like not.
I was gonna throw that out there, but I wasn't sure if that was a stupid.
Are we talking like K Love this year or K Love like in Minnesota? Because there's a big difference.
Because you're not gonna revolve the team. That's what I thought K Love in my head, and then I'm like, but wait, he's not going to be the guy.
If Caleb panned out, that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh my God.
Panned out in Cleveland.
Yeah, if Caleb planned out in Cleveland. That's what I was trying to say there. Another guy I want to throw out there, just because we're throwing out guys here, and we'll talk about him later, is Juan Hernan Gomez. Watch this kid. I think he was practicing at some gym. From NBA 3, I think he made like 7 straight threes. Kid's jumping out of his shoes. I love him from an international standpoint. I think he's fantastic from Spain. He might be able to produce well in the NBA.